Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It has been a few weeks since the last video, even though in that last video I said I was going to try to start posting a little bit more. I just have been extremely busy with my regular day job, and things have been very busy with the coins as well. Sam's Coins and Heavy Metal LLC, samscoinsandheavymetal.com, samscoinsandheavymetal@gmail.com is how you'll find us. You'll find us on eBay under the same name with an underscore in between each word. We are also on USA Coin Book under the name of Jimmy Page is Great. Also on Bullion Stacker for those of you who are familiar. Great website, peer-to-peer website based on trust and feedback. No seller fees, no administration fees, no membership fees. Just good old honest hardcore veteran, mostly bullion, but it's not all bullion. There are rare coins, silver, gold, platinum. There's all kinds of forums on there. I highly recommend it. The software is extremely old, bordering on a hybrid of MS-DOS and Windows. It goes back to the early days of dial-up internet modem, some of the code that the website's written in, but at the end of the day, it's really just about buyers and sellers connecting to each other, and there's a feedback system where it's an honor system. So at the end of the day, somebody has to act first. But not only have I been on there for many years and never personally had a bad experience, I also never heard of anybody having a bad experience. I'm sure there probably has been an isolated one or two here and there. There's another guy in my local community just 20 or 30 miles from my house, and he turned me on to this website way back in 2011. And he's the number one guy in terms of transactions and feedbacks. And he also has, he's built his business with Bullion Stacker being a large part of it. But I am not here to advertise for them, and I am not affiliated with them, and I get no royalties or commissions or anything like that. I'm just mentioning it because it's not something everyone's heard of. But back to the task at hand. Last video we went through some older holders, a one-owner collection that had auctioned off many of his older slabs and coins that he's held for several decades. And I mentioned in that video that there were some raw coins, and there were many other coins that we just didn't have time to look at. So I thought we would explore a few of those, and a teaser for a future video. I'll explain that when we get a little more into the video, but here we're looking at this wonderful 1864. I got this cotton glove on, not sure how often I'll put it in play, but 1864S, toned seated Liberty $50, Civil War issue, one of the rare dates. If you check the populations, PCGS, NGC, CAC for that matter, there are very few graded above AU, just a couple dozen MS coins. This one, maybe AU 55-ish. 58 maybe, 55, 58. Very deeply toned, and no hairlines or, the luster's a little muted, so, they're very tough on these. Every time I've submitted either cap bust or seated coinage, you would think they'd be a little bit less strict because they're so old, and they weren't necessarily cared for like we do with modern coins, especially in those 1800s. So the fact that they can survive 162 years and still be in condition like this, I know I'm gonna get flamed for that one, flipping it with the bare hand, is pretty remarkable. But we just thought we'd kick off with that little example. These are not part of the one owner. This is the teaser. So here we have, and I have a bunch of these. These are what I call, they're toned piece dollars, but and they were toned to begin with. These were some of the ones I got from a few years ago. They were in those velvet-lined cases, and they weren't quite this toned when I got them back in 2023. The toning has slowly, they sit inside a safe in certain conditions, what I call the aging bin. They remain inside that velvet case, and there's a little bit of secret sauce, nothing underhanded, nothing that would produce artificial toning, just favorable conditions to procure toning. Now, you don't know what's going to happen, and some of these are heavily toned, obviously, but you can see there's some color popping up at the forehead there, but it's mostly dark, and many people wouldn't like that, but there are some people that do, and there are some people that appreciate any type of toning on a piece dollar, but these are obviously heavily toned, and they're a little bit darker looking in the video than they are in hand. So these have sat in the aging bin for the last 2+ years, and they will continue to under certain controlled conditions, which that's a teaser. We'll get into a little bit of that in another time, another video. This was it was a run of 5, 22 through 26, and the color is not popping quite as well as I hoped it would in this light box. There was a little more color to these than what you are seeing. You can see the hints of the blue and the hints of the red underneath the dark speckled mottled tone on this 1925. You can see how the reverse is lightly toned, but not anywhere near as toned as the obverse, and then rounding out with this 1926. Again, they look a little bit different in hand. Trying to capture the true look here. Not sure if this is hurting or helping. Trying to capture the truest look possible, but these will continue to slowly age, like fine wine or fine cheese. We also picked up these Morgan dollars as part of that one owner collection, and these now I've had in possession for maybe 2-3 months, 4 months, and they weren't this toned when I first got them. So these have again been put into the velvet case in certain conditions that have sort of helped the process along. I wouldn't certainly call it artificial toning by any stretch, but it's they were toned to begin with. They're just a little bit more toned than they were to begin with, and they are continuing to bask in the aging bin. They're very tidy house look to them. And again, the look in hand is going to be slightly different than what I'm able to capture under these amateur conditions. Very lustrous, really pretty, a myriad of color. And we have one more, 79S, 80S, and you guessed it, 81S. It was like a box of 3 coins. I think they sold at auction for about 200, so about 66 bucks each, 67 bucks each, which, like, at the time was like melt. A little bit over now, but not that much. So we'll see. These will eventually make their way to PCGS in the next, not sure, might be next month, it might be next year. All depends on when I think the time is right. They're getting close. We don't want them to, they're approaching terminal toning, obviously, but we just want the color to be a little bit, thicker, almost, or, more. There was another one that isn't nearly as toned, but it's a fascinating date that you don't see all that often. And this one here, I'm kind of on the fence. There's no hairlines or anything, but something about it just leads me to think that when I do send this one in, it's going to come back with a details grade. It's like AU58 MS61-ish. See, the 86.0 is not a very common date in mint state. And this one, very flat, and if you read up on the 86.0, It was one of the worst struck dates of the entire series. In 1886, the New Orleans Mint struck nothing but silver dollars. So, as renowned expert Q. David Bowers says regarding the 1886 O, you would think they only had one task at hand, they would do it well. But paraphrasing here, something along the lines that the New Orleans Mint was the red-headed stepchild of the Mint, and the Philadelphia Mint didn't hold them necessarily in the highest of regard. So this one will make its way just to see what PCGS thinks of it. If I had to guess, probably call it AU details, maybe surfaces smooth. I'm not really sure, putting my finger on why I think that. Just something when you look at it is a little, I don't want to say unnatural, but I guess that's the best way of putting it. Again, there's no hairlines or signs of any type of harsh cleaning or whizzing or anything like that. And there is a cartwheel, even though we're not really capturing it here. It's just a little flat, and there's just something about it that tells me I think it's been manipulated. All right. This came back from PCGS not too long ago, and this was a example from the aging bin. That was a Tidy House coin. It was definitely in a Tidy House packaging. And as you can see, it's very similar in color to the ones we looked at. This was not part of the one owner collection, but this is just kind of a demonstration of the result of the aging bin, as I call it. And the aging bin is not, the people that artificially tone coins, do it in a matter of weeks, maybe months. These sat here for years, so they've, they're putting old rolls or craft envelopes and, controlled temperature, controlled humidity, and maybe a couple other secret methods that are not nefarious. They just are favorable to impart toning on silver, for silver oxide formation. So we'll leave it at that, and I've had this one for a little bit, but this was part of that process. So we have a lot of slab coins. I'm hoping to get through them all, but most of them are from the one owner collection. A few of them are not. This one is not. This one was bought in an online auction somewhere. Not a common one, not one you see or you find. It's not a proxy bid or a high bid auction. It's a small private auction company. They do auctions every now and again, and this was sold raw. There's always a gamble. There's no returns. There's no promises. There's no nothing. It's really hard to really, it's not like eBay where, you can spend a bunch of money and just send it back saying you don't like it. And, if the seller is a top-rated seller, they're going to pay the two-way shipping. With these auctions, it's, you really have to, get lucky, but, be selective with what you pick, based on what you're looking at. And try to, understand what the coin will look like in hand based on what it looks like online. Doesn't always work out, but with practice, sometimes it's better than not. This was part of the no, this was not part of the one owner collection. This was a separate auction, just came in a couple weeks ago. Just put it on eBay, as a matter of fact, last week. A lot of color. There's some scuffing on the slab, and there's a heavy, I think it's on this side, yeah, there's like scores on the slab. Yeah, you can see them right there. Almost like somebody clawed it. You can hear it. So that's unfortunate. Might cross it over anyways if it doesn't sell. Nice reverse with that, not proof-like, but that shimmering luster. It's not satiny, but it's not proof-like. It's kind of cloudy. Nice coin, properly graded in my opinion. This one was from the one owner collection. Nice, pretty much white, 1879. Oh, one of the better dates. Nice strike. You see the breast feathers popping up, pretty nice. It's pretty hard to find this coin above 62. Once you get to 63 and higher, it starts to really increase in value, and when they're properly graded, like this one certainly is, they're harder and harder to find, especially once you get to 64 and above. The values really start to take off. You know what, we'll cover the grade like we were doing on the other ones. And then we have this one. You can see the reflectivity there for sure, I hope. And there's some fine shatter, both on the cheek and in the fields. You can see by the reverse, this is an old green holder. The reflectivity there, let's see if I have something to, I don't know if this is going to work. Gotta get the angle the right way, but yeah, you can see the writing there. Yeah, that's a good example of it right there. Put this off to the side. So, yeah, this one's interesting. Not so sure it would dimple today. I think it would peel, but I don't think it would dimple today by any stretch. And the old green holders are kind of famous for being soft. And this one sold rather soft, so, I mean, it wasn't soft. You know, it was maybe $400, but it wasn't, you know, didn't go to the moon by any stretch. So I'm not so sure about that. We have another ADS. This one is in a Rattler. Speaking of Rattlers, we have a couple more that are on their way to me right now, and you can see the reflectivity here. Cleaner surfaces, maybe a little more depth of mirror. You know, by comparison. Running out of space, running out of real estate. We have the same grade. Now, obviously, this coin is more desirable, not just because it's in the Rattler, but the quality of the coin. It's pretty much a no-brainer. I think 100 out of 100 would take the Rattler, even if they didn't know it was in a Rattler. You know, if they're just looking at the coin purely, safe to say the Rattler coin is nicer. Not being, again, trying to be unbiased to the Rattler. This is just a coin I wanted to show you. This was not in the aging bin, and this was not part of the one-owner collection. This was a coin I submitted a couple months ago. Really nice color. Probably an old tidy house, but it doesn't quite have the same tidy house look. You know, that usually there's more of a blend. This is more of an abrupt change of color from bluish violet to orangey sunset to, you know, mulberry there, violet in the middle. I wasn't 100% sure this one would straight grade. And to my surprise, it did. Not surprised, but positive appreciation. You can see the various, I hate the term rainbow, but there is a little bit of a rainbow effect there in that top right. Really lovely. Not for sale. Not yet, anyway. And then there was one more ADS that was in that same submission. Not quite as vibrantly toned. You've got a little bit of reflectivity, you can see. Not nearly enough for PL, but it's got the, you know, that quality. This almost looks like it came out of an old A&A holder. It's got very similar toning, and it may have at one point, not from me, because if it was, it would have stayed in that holder. But that's the type of toning it has. And it's another 65 with a plus. Although I think the other coin is a little bit technically more towards 65 plus in terms of contact mark, strike, luster, and eye appeal. All right. There's another one that I had graded quite a while ago. I might have shown this one before. This one has nothing to do with recent, but I figured I would put it on display, not for sale. Nice coin. Not sure why it's not a 64. There's hardly any contact marks. And those mirrors are deep. You look at the other 64s, I mean, especially that old green holder, and there's way more contact marks. So I've always struggled with how they grade these PLs and DMPLs in terms of, you know, technical grade on top of the suffix. And then this is part of that one owner collection. You can see the reflectivity there. It's not as pronounced. Not quite as clear. It's definitely there. But not as pronounced. Definitely there though. I have this as a PL, 63 PL, if I were to try to grade it without knowing what the grade is, but of course I know what the grade is. And much to everyone's surprise, you know, was this graded at the same time as the old green holders? No, I think this is newer. I think this is, you know, 12, 15, 18 years ago compared to 25 or 30 years ago. Again, a little bit mystified. I've sent coins in with better mirrors that haven't received any kind of suffix. And this looks like the ADS in terms of the patina, the color. The old green holder ADS, that is. Another old green holder here. I'm not going to do the business card trick, but we're already 22 minutes in. And the 82S, up until MS63, is fairly common in PL and also in DMPL. Once you get to 64, there's a big jump. And I think that that would mean that they would be very strict. But nonetheless, we have a 64 DMPL, but again, I don't think so. If I were to crack this out and send it in raw, I'm not even sure they would give it the PL today. Probably. Can't really tell here. It's not really showing as much as it is. It's definitely reflective, more so than what's showing on the video, but I don't think it has any chance of a modern day deep mirror. Just my opinion. There's another one that was submitted a while ago. We're just showing these to compare to the past grades for dimples and PLs, so that we can see, you know, has the grading evolved? Has there been a shift in, look at a very nice cameo on this one, really nice black and white. Toning spot on the wing might be a detractor for some, but there's some chatter understates into the left of the Eagle's right wing, or left facing wing. But again, only 63, and we looked at those other 64s, and you know, if those are 64s, I would think this would be all day. Not complaining, just pointing out what I believe there to be some inconsistencies. Older blue holder, this is part of the one owner collection. Nice mirrors, both sides. Just for point of reference, even though I said we wouldn't do it anymore. You can see the clear reflectivity. On both sides. And we have very clean surfaces. A couple small marks to the left of the cheek there, to the left of the nose. But the rest of the fields, 90% of the fields are really nice. Cheek's pretty nice. Very solid reverse. And it's a 64, and it's a PL, and I think that one's spot on. I like that grade. I like that. I like everything about that one. And let's keep the train running. This is another one. This was not part of the one owner. This was one I sent in. Lots of proof light going on here. We'll stop that pretty soon. Similar to the last. $85.64 PL. And then another 85.0. This was the one owner. Older blue holder. Very similar to the last coin. There is a difference though. This one got the deep mirror, even though I think the one previously had stronger mirrors. So there's a fine line. There's a lot of subjectivity. You could call it inconsistency. Here's a Rattler from the one owner. There's a 97.0 and a Rattler coming too, which I don't have yet, that I got for about 20% of market price, and I'll explain that in another video once we have that. Nice 85S. I've had this for a while now. I might have shown this one, but that was part of the one owner. This has been on eBay for a week and a half or so. Kind of pasty white, looks dipped. Lackluster a little bit, definitely on the lower grade. Probably not going to see it here, but this is an 87/6. And it's really hard to see. It's a very subtle light shade of the right loop of the 6 under to the right of the 7. It's got its own coin number, 35A, or 50, I mean coin number 7174. Surprisingly expensive coin. Snow White 87.0, one owner. Nice piece, very clean. There's also a bunch of coins at PCGS for crossover right now, and a lot of raw ones there that are coming back in the next week or two, part of this collection. Nice solid, I agree with that grade, 64. This coin gets mighty expensive in 65, and I'm not going to say that's what this is. It's not. It's a 64. Might be a plus. I mean, the strike is really good for an 87.0. That's a date that often you won't see the breast feathers and you won't get that sharpness of detail. So definitely a higher end example for that particular date. And another 87. Another frosty white from the one owner, 87S. This one is currently on eBay. Very nice piece. MS63. That's where the price jump starts in this in that date. Right at 63, they start to go up. Here's another 87 from the one owner. Another 87S. It's got some hints of reflectivity, but not quite enough for proof like. Average amount of chatter on both sides. Seems like a lock, stock, run-of-the-mill 63, and indeed, that's what we have. It's like a textbook 63. Maybe even a 62 plus. And then we have this 88 with some reflectivity, 88.0 I should say. Old green holder, part of the one owner collection. You're always going to get that chatter on these proof-like surfaces, even on the dimples. That one's, you know, it's definitely proof-like. It's probably close to whether it's deep mirror. And then we have this 89. This is a separate coin. I've had this for a while, even though it's in an old green holder. I think I might have shown this. But it's a nice coin. It was worth showing a second time. Tough date. Really nice coin. very close to the next grade. Very clean surfaces, not cleaned. Clean surfaces, both sides, good strong luster. Maybe a hint of it being dipped at one point, probably was. 89 S, tough date. A little bit of reflectivity on the reverse. A little bit of a retoned look. No hairlines or anything, no indication of cleaning, no sign of wear. I would have given this a 62, and looks like PCGS agreed, part of the one owner. You can see there's some chatter, but it just has a little bit of that almost retoned look, which to me is a deterrent. There's another coin from the one owner. 90S. Nice coin. Another lock stock, run-of-the-mill 63, and I think that's absolutely spot on. Getting down to about 5 or 6 more. Here we have this 1891, and all of the 1891s are tough dates, whether it's Philly, Carson City, New Orleans, or San Francisco, and this one is the San Francisco variety. San Francisco Treat 91S. Good solid strike and luster, not a lot of contact marks. This one's like, to me, between 63 and 64. I probably would have gone with 63, just the streaky and the discoloration on the cheek, some toning spots, but maybe they weren't there 20 years ago. That's a tough coin above 63. They really start to jump in price once you get above that 63 level. And we have another very tough date, part of the one owner. We have this lovely 1892 O. About an $800 coin in 63. It's not super rare, but it's definitely not common. We got, I think, 3 or 4 more. This one is a common date. Part of the one owner again. 98.0 with really clean surfaces for a proof-like coin. And this one's clearly proof-like on both sides. Close to 64 in my eye, maybe even 64 fully. And this one I don't really disagree with. I think it's all there for that. I think it's pretty accurate. Might be a little bit on the lenient side, but I don't think so. Here we have this 1899 with hints of reflectivity. 99P, one of the better dates. Really clean surfaces. Just that bag mark under the E in States, and a couple of very minor ones to the right of the, to the left of the right eagle wing, left facing. Some light chatter just on the cheek and beyond, you know, to the left of the cheek, but really nothing, you know, at arm's length, as they say. You know, you don't want to get under the microscope. Maybe there's that dig under the M in unum. But overall, pretty solid. I think this one is another liner, 63, 64, and we end up with 63, part of the one owner collection, and I think that's okay. Conservative is always better, if you ask me. Well, there's another one from the one owner. We got a bunch of 1903s now. Somewhat better date, not rare by any stretch, but it's not like an 83O or an 81S. Similar level of contact marks as pretty much the last handful we've seen, but this is not a 63. Must be a 64, right? Puzzling to me. Not complaining, just curious. We have another 1903. Old green holder. Glassy luster. 030, that is. One of the semi-key dates. It was once upon a time thought to be a super common coin, and they were selling these for no premium in the 50s. You can read about that, many resources. Turned out to be a lot more scarce than what met the eye. I think that's fine. You know, based on what we've looked at though, maybe it's pushing a 64. It's a little bit, not shiny, but a little bit shiny. So maybe that's the deterrent. And then last but not least, in this 36-minute video, is this 1904, also part of the one owner. Get that hit on the chin of Lady Liberty and on the neck, couple marks. 1904P, another better date. Decent reverse, as I like to call it. To me, lock, stock, run-of-the-mill, average, greater than 2, less than 4, 63. All right, this video I was trying to keep it to 20 or 25 minutes. It's at 36 and a half. So please, your comments are welcome and appreciated. Keep them clean and keep them without vitriol if possible. And like, comment, subscribe if you're so inclined. And please visit our website or visit us on eBay. Send us a message if there's anything you see that you like. A lot of that stuff that was shown today has not been put up for sale. Some of it will eventually, some of it won't be for a while, or some of it won't. I don't have any immediate plans to sell, but there are a lot of auctions coming up, and we do have to keep the wheel turning. So I have been listing stuff that I normally wouldn't, just because of that. So appreciate your time if you stayed with us this whole video, and hope to see you soon in the next one.